Hello, fans of sports and fans of topics. My name is Eric Martinez, and welcome to another episode of SporTopics. There were a lot of amazing and memorable moments in the world of sports in 2018, and so we are here to decide what the best moment was last year. With me, as always, I have AJ, Hector, and Steven. So we collectively got together and figured out what the best 16 top moments were that happened in the world of sports last year, and collectively, as a unit, narrow it down one by one, go round by round, tournament style, to decide what is the best sports moment of 2018. We have the Conor McGregor versus Khabib after fight going up against Tua Tagovailoa's game-winning overtime thriller in the national championship game. AJ, I'm gonna throw it to you first. What do you think?
I'd have to go with Tua as the better moment. Tua coming in at halftime for Alabama. At that point, if you were following it closely, like, you knew that he was like a talent, but he's a freshman and you don't expect them to jump into a big game like that and just play the way he did. And the Conor McGregor Khabib thing, it was a highlight of fighting last year, but it wasn't like a good moment per se. It was like a stain on what should have been like a good fighting night.
Okay, so we got one for the national championship game. Hector, what's your vote?
I think Tua's game was really, really impressive, but at the end of the day, it is Alabama, and they're just surrounded by so much talent, and it's just something that you kind of knew was going to happen. The McGregor-Khabib fight, that was just an incredible fight. And the whole thing that happened after, it was a stain, but at the same time, I know we don't like to see that kind of stuff, but at the same time, we're just like really amazed that even happened. I think I'm just gonna go with the McGregor.
All right, 1-1. So that leaves it up to Steven. I saw a lot of emotion as Hector was saying his spiel there. So what do you got to say about it?
So I'm gonna go with Tua.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Just because of the overtime factor.
Alrighty, so now we're going on to the second matchup in the first round. South Korea eliminating Germany from World Cup contention, going up against Mexico defeating Germany in the first round. So two Germany matches going head-to-head right here in the second matchup. And I'm going to throw it to you, Hector, this time. Start us off with your vote.
I'm going to go with Mexico beating Germany. I understand that South Korea was a bigger upset if you look at like the rankings between the two teams. But I think just because Mexico had already beat Germany, the whole South Korea thing didn't have as much shock value.
Alrighty, so 1 point for Mexico. Is it going to be another point for Mexico, or are you going South Korea?
No, I'm going South Korea.
South Korea.
Just for the fact that they that game eliminated Germany. So regardless of what happened in the Mexico game, if Germany just would have beat South Korea, they wouldn't have gone home.
Alright, so we have another tie. We're going to have to do another tiebreaker, and that's going to fall on your shoulders. AJ, what do you got to say?
Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. This one is really hard. The elimination factor is pretty huge, but I'm gonna have to side with Hector on this one and pick Mexico. It was such a big thing. I mean, there were recordings of like seismic activity in Mexico from the celebration. It wasn't like an actual earthquake, but like there were recordings of movement in Mexico from how big it was. I mean, you could say that South Korea winning helped Mexico even more, but just the win over Germany on its own was just such a big thing.
It was huge. Yeah. And I was in Mexico to witness it. I was part of that seismic activity.
There you go.
I'm trying to say. It was pretty phenomenal. So, alrighty. Looks like we have our first match of round 2 set, but we're not done with round 1. So we got the Miracle in Minnesota up against the College World Series. Oklahoma State is on their last strike, and they find a way to win in the World Series. So, Steven, you are our first voter.
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Miracle. Just for the fact that limited time, it was basically an impossible play to make, and then you got Diggs throwing up the helmet at the end.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so Miracle Minnesota. AJ, where's your vote?
I'm jumping on that train also. The Minnesota. I mean, it was the Minnesota thing. I think was just bigger in the sense that it's the NFL. It's for the playoffs. It means more to more people, I think, and it was in that play. Just the way it ended was. I mean, it's in the name, it's a miracle. That just kind of, says it all there.
And now we're on to our fourth matchup here in the first round. We have Pujols becoming the 4th player in MLB history to record 3,000 hits, which he got last year, and also 600 home runs, going up against Tiger Woods winning the PGA Tour last year. So two very different sports, very different moments. Both old icons making their staple in their sport. AJ, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to say Tiger Woods. Albert Pujols, all the credit in the world to him. He's been had a phenomenal career, but I think just the moment in which Woods won, it means so much to the sport of golf more than Pujols' hit did to the sport of baseball.
Okay, Hector, do you agree? Or
yeah, I
you
agree with
going
AJ.
Albert?
Like I said, Tiger.
Right.
Those 15, 20 years ago, he literally just brought so much excitement to the sport of golf. I'm gonna go with Tiger.
Well, moving on to the next one was a pretty cool moment. Was Derrick Rose scoring 50 points? Good for him. But going up against Belgium, defeating Japan in a comeback victory in the World Cup. So, Hector, what do you think about that one? What do you got to say?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Derrick Rose. I think the Derrick Rose game was really big because it's just another one of those feel-good stories where Derrick Rose had those struggles, his mental struggles, his injuries, all that stuff that happened. For him to come back and have such an incredible year, get into the All-Star game, who would have ever thought that he'd be back in the All-Star game again? He just had such a promising career when he was with the Bulls, and for that to get ruined by injuries, and for him to come back and now have such a good year and have that 50-point game, that was really incredible. So I'm gonna go with the Derrick Rose game.
All right, 1 point for Derrick Rose. Steven?
I agree with everything he says.
Derrick Rose, alrighty. Yeah. Well, let's find out what Derrick Rose will go up against in the next round. We have Enrique Agumbawale hitting back-to-back game winners, going up against number 16 seed UMBC, defeating and upsetting, never happened before in history, number 1 Virginia. I'm gonna start off with Steven this time.
That's hard, but I'm gonna go for. How do you say the name?
Enrique Agumbawale.
Yep, just for the fact it was 2 games in a row, and the second one was to win the whole thing.
True. Do you agree or do you disagree?
It's a tough one. It's really tough, like you said, because Enrique won the tournament in the second shot. But I gotta go the UMBC. I don't even know who they are. UMBC beating Virginia. I'm just gonna have to go with that one, just because it's never happened before. There's been game winners before in the past, and there'll still be game winners in the future. But who knows when this is gonna happen again?
All right, AJ, what's your choice? You have the deciding factor this time.
I don't particularly like this matchup because I think both of these moments
could have gone.
I think they both these moments are good enough to go beyond the first round. Beyond the second round, maybe.
So
even.
is Virginia.
They're so good. Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, Virginia was the number 1 seed in the whole tournament. They weren't just a 1 seed; they were the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And so for them to lose the way they did was just 16 seed, never beaten a 1 seed. That being said, Enrique Agumbawale. I mean, back-to-back game winners in the Final Four of the women's tournament. I mean, the biggest stage of your sport, and you go and you hit one to send away UConn. If you don't know about women's basketball, UConn is the single greatest basketball program in the history of women's basketball. To get sunk the way they did on a game winner like that, and then to come right back the next game and do it again, win yourself the national championship. What happened after UMBC beat them? They lost the next round.
Yeah.
So great single game moment, but this one was just a little better.
Philly special in the Super Bowl. Nick Foles pulling out a miracle against Loyola Chicago, going to the Final Four. Another NCAA tournament moment right there. So Hector,
I'm gonna go with the Philly special on the fact that they did win the game. Nick Foles is just an incredible play call. The whole game they were going at it. They weren't holding anything back, and that just kind of capped it off. And it'll be something that the city of Philadelphia, they'll remember forever for the rest of their lives. That Philly special.
Alrighty. AJ, I won't torment you by being a potential tiebreaker this time, so I'll go with you next. And so, Philly special or the Final Four?
It's the Philly special. It was just better.
I mean, it's the Super Bowl. So
yeah, this is the biggest stage.
Alrighty, last matchup here in the first round before we head to round 2. We have Max Muncy's walk-off home run after that marathon of a World Series game. I believe it was over 7 hours, 18 innings, ridiculously long game. Walk-off homer for the Dodgers. Going up against another ridiculous marathon of a game, the Rams-Chiefs. 105 total points scored on Monday night in front of a national crowd. Could have potentially been a Super Bowl matchup, which would have been probably really exciting. So, AJ, I'll start with you. What What do you think about this one?
I am gonna go with the Monday night game.
All
I
right.
know the game itself means less, but I think the way that I felt watching that game was totally different than how I felt in the World Series game. I mean, in the World Series, I think everybody knew that Boston was just the better team in the World Series, and in the football game, you didn't know, and you're watching the World Series game. And at a certain point, you're like, oh man, like I'm just glad it's over now. Where at the end of the football game, you're like, no, I wanted more of that. And that's kind of how it splits for me. So
All right.
I'm going with the football game.
So 1 point to Rams versus Chiefs. Steven, I'm gonna throw it to you this time.
I'm going Rams versus Chiefs
Rams
too.
Chiefs. It was probably the greatest regular season
Just for that
playoff
Yeah.
or football game. Greatest regular season football game.
I feel like the only knock on it is just something that people have been arguing against, just the fact that the lack of defense kind of created that game. But at the same time, this is the matchup that I wish we would have seen in the Super Bowl. Questionable play call, whatever, it ended up being the way it was. But I would have voted for the Rams Chiefs as well.